Hello, my Zentangle friends. This is Barbara Langston, CZT, Certified Zentangle Teacher. Welcome to Not Perfect Zen. And I'm grateful to be making another video. I want to start by telling you that I'm grateful for my Facebook groups because that's what gave me the inspiration for what I'm going to show you today. Someone in the Certified Zentangle Teachers Facebook group, in fact, she's one of my students, posted a question asking for guidance on what tangles, what patterns can go together to make a cohesive design. And I know that I have had that question, that issue, many times, wondering what patterns I could put together to make a nice Zentangle tile. And that's part of being worried about the end result, okay? And ideally in the Zentangle method, we don't worry about the end result. We just want to follow the method. And that was, some of the answers that came back. And I just wanted to share with you that I don't know if you are aware of the Tangle 365 Facebook group. They have a list of patterns for January, and we'll continue to make pattern lists for the whole year of 2022. And so I took that list, and this is part of it, and made little cards with each of the pattern names. And I challenged my student, Yehudit Steinberg, that maybe we could just pull 4 names that were in the list for January of 2022 and make a tile. So these are 3 of the patterns, that I pulled out. I pulled out Pepper, Crescent Moon, and Trelina. And I actually pulled out a 4th pattern, and I used it on the tile that I made, which was this tile, but I did not like how that came out. I'm not going to tell you the pattern name, but I don't enjoy doing it. I didn't like how it looked on my pattern or my tile, so I cut it off and then used these to put this on here. So what I'm going to show you is how I did this tile. Inside is Trellina. On the outside here is Pepper. And then on the outside of that is Crescent Moon. And I actually enjoyed doing it. I'm going to put all my tags back in the box, and I might do that again. So what are we going to use? We're going to use, this is a craft color of brown, and then this is closer to the Renaissance tile that you might have. So this is 4 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall, because I put it into a disc bound system. And I do have a video that explains how that works. So, like I said, in the center is the pattern Trelina. There we go. By Eni Oken. And I do have a video just for that pattern on my YouTube channel, because it was one of the Inktober patterns for 2021, or actually 2020. One of those, but it is on my channel. So I'm going to use a brown micron. I'm going to use a kind of a brown pastel chalk pencil. The art supply that I go to sells some things individually, and so that's a nice thing. I'm going to use a blending stump for the brown. I'm going to use a white charcoal pencil, a graphite pencil, possibly a kneaded eraser. And then I have a blending stump for the white. The other thing I want to show you is that after I did this one, I wanted to play with it on a Zendala. This is a gray Zentangle Zendala, which is about 4.5. I always have to measure this. Sorry. About a 4.5 inch circle. And the only difference is I put Flux on the outside, and then I put the pattern called Ripped Screen on the outside of that. And if I have time, I'll show you a little bit about that. But let's get started. We're going to do Trellina first. So I'm going to get my brown micron, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I do apologize if lately my hand has been in the way. I did have a comment recently that sometimes the paper gets out of focus, and I do apologize. I'm going to make a little bit of a orb like this. I want to leave it open in the middle. And then I'm going to do almost like a C or a 6. Okay. And I'm going to do 6 of these. You could do as many as you want, but I'm going to try to make them about the same length. And I meant to actually have that be more of a little arc, but it's okay. All right. We're going to do that all the way around. And then we're going to have 6 of those little curves. Okay. And now we're going to go to the top of one of them, any of them. And we're just going to do an anchored aura. So we're doing an aura, but it's anchored up here at the top. It's also called a tethered aura. Okay. Till we get back down to this one. And then it's going to curve around. All right. So we're going to continue doing that on all of these. Mine don't always have the same number of auras, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're enjoying what you're drawing. And I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way, which sometimes makes my patterns a little odd, but that's okay. So I added 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to bring these down and around a little bit. So depending on how big you make them at the bottom, that kind of determines how many you can put on here. So it looks like this one's going to have 5. And I'm going to bring these corners down. One more. Okay. Now I want to add, you see at the top of these, a little bit of weight at the top of each of these lines. And this makes it look really good when you add pepper on the outside. Okay, so just keep adding a little bit of weight at the top of each of these. And this is what I did first when I picked out those 3 patterns. I thought, well, ideally, Trellina would look best in the middle. So that's what I did. And then I was trying to figure out what to do with pepper. And I've never done just a portion of pepper like I'm doing on this one. But the idea came to me and it turned out to be pretty good. Okay, I'm going to fill in these little edges here where these go over. So it looks like it's kind of dark and they're going behind. Okay, so there's our Trellina. And with the original pattern, this is one of the first steps. And then what she does next is to put these trailing auras that go out. But this is where I decided to try putting pepper. And so now I'm going to use my graphite pencil just to add an arc above here as a guide for pepper for each of these. So just a nice semi-circle at the top of each. And they're not all exactly the same, and that's okay. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my brown pencil, or pen, I'm sorry, my brown micron. And with pepper, as you can see from here, normally you have an open area and then you have a little bit of a curve that gets bigger on the side. We're going to do a little bit closer to what this is. Okay, very thin at the bottom and thicker at the top. And I'm just going to pick one of these spots and I'm going to start by putting a little bit of an arc there. And then I'm going to come up to these edges and just make them a little bit thicker at the top. Okay, so I'm just going to come along this edge, make a little curve and another curve, and bring it back down. You can make it a little bit rounded at the top to make it look like it's going around this arc. So let's just keep doing that. It's almost like a little triangle at the top. Okay, so we're just going to continue to do that. So I started with a little bit of an arc here. And then I'm making it a little bit fat at the top. That one looks kind of odd, but it's okay. My problem is I'm trying to look around my camera and keep my hand out of the way and make sure I'm staying centered. And hopefully it all makes sense for you. Oh, all right. I think these first two are the hardest ones to get them to look good. But just keep playing with it. So if you've listened before, you know I'm in Texas. I'm halfway between Houston and Galveston. And it's just been cold, cloudy weather for us for the last week or so. And cold to me is anything below 70 degrees. And it is about 50 degrees today. So I like to stay inside. We rarely get snow, and I'm happy with that. I have a garden. Whoops, I'm so sorry. I have a garden that still has kale and Swiss chard and other greens that I'm happy are still doing well. Okay, one to go. And this really starts to pop after you add the graphite pencil, or not the graphite, but the pastel pencil and the white chalk. Okay. So now we have pepper along the outside. The next thing I'm going to do is add an aura all the way around. So I'm going to keep my pen to the right of what I'm adding the aura to. Helps me to see it better and hopefully keep the R kind of even. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is crescent moon. And that's this one. So that's the third pattern. I don't know what order I picked them, but that is one of the 4 that I picked. So now we're going to put crescent moon here. And with these, for some reason, brown paper gets, I don't know, wet faster than the other paper when you're trying to color it in, fill it in like that. So just be careful to not tear up the paper. Okay, so we're going to put 3 auras on each one. I'm going to try to be gentle with this and not tear up the paper. I would love to have a graphic 1 in this color, but I have not been able to find it. I don't believe they make them in that size. You could possibly find a watercolor brush that's close to that color. Okay, I think that one's a little bit bigger than the first, but it's okay. Again, when I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way, I don't necessarily do straight lines or consistent curves. Maybe that's more descriptive of what I'm doing here. My auras are not even. There we go. Okay. So just keep going around to each of the spots that curved in between your pepper pattern. And you can see the graphite pencil where we put our guide down there, but it's not going to matter because we're going to add the pastel chalk pencil. And you could do this, of course, on a white tile with just your graphite and a black pen. The nice thing about using colored paper is that it's easier to add colored shading, like we're going to do. And I really do like using the pastel chalk pencils. Okay, so, oops. Were you yelling at me to tell me I missed that? That's what happens when I get to talking. 2 and 3. Okay, So that is basically what I did on this one, okay? And it's the shading that's going to make a huge difference on this. And this one, like I said, is a Krita color. And this one is 46212. I'm not sure if it has an actual name on it, but I'm going to start in the center. And I'm just going to add color between each of these where we added the weight. And I want to start in the center so that I keep my hand off of the pastel. I have messed up some tiles lately by getting ink on my fingers, and then it ended up smearing on my tile. Okay, I have a blending stump that's marked for brown, and I am just gonna softly pull that down toward the center and do little circles. And, you know, I'm just starting with a small amount, and then I can always come back and add more. Okay, and I want to add some highlight coming up from these corners where it all meets at the bottom. Because where everything comes down into the corner, you're going to end up with a shadow where it all bunches together. Okay, now I'm going to pull that up toward the center. Just soften it. Again, you could add more if you wanted to. We'll see how this looks, so we may add more. Let's see. I don't want to overdo it, but I do want to show a shadow there. Okay. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is add shadow along this edge of pepper. We're staying right on that edge where these lines wrap. I'm not going up into that aura, hopefully. We want this to look like it's the edge of a peppermint candy. Okay. Now we're going to Soften that again like we did on the other one. And it makes it look like it's rounded now. I'm sorry if this gets a little bit out of the screen. I try to stay focused in the right area. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing, adding some shadow on each side where Crescent Moon goes behind. And I'm going to come up a little bit. Just keep going around, adding a little bit of pastel chalk to each side. And now we're going to soften that and pull it toward the center. But we're not going to cover the center. That's going to be our highlight. Okay. Don't push too hard on your blending stuff so you don't damage the paper. Like I said, for some reason, this brown paper is more sensitive. All right, one to go. All right, let me back out a little bit on this. And you could always go back if you felt like you wanted it and add a little bit more shading in here. On the blue one that I did, you can see I brought the shading up kind of high. On this one, I'm just a little bit worried about pushing on this paper too much. And I'm going to add a little bit more just so we can show our pastel white, or white charcoal, rather. A little bit better. Let's push that up some. Always remember to make this your art. You do it the way that you want it. Okay, yeah, I think that helps. Now we're going to use our white pencil. And I'm going to start in these center parts, and I'm just very lightly adding some white in this area where we did not put that brown pastel. So it makes it look like it's got a really cool curve at the top before it goes under the other petal. So just softly adding some white. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add some white in the center here. And it kind of meets where that other white chalk was. You see what I mean? It kind of meets up with that white chalk. Okay, and then we're going to add some white on each of these. Coming up from the very center. All right. Now we have our white blending stump, and we're just going to go along wherever we put this and just soften it a little bit. If you are interested in that list from the Tangle 365 group, I think that group may have reached its limit as far as members of that Facebook group, but I might be able to post the list of patterns if you're interested in doing what I have done, I'm sorry, as far as cutting those up and picking some out. I think the only rule that I would change for myself is that you're allowed to say no and not do certain patterns if they're not your favorites. Okay, so there we go. That is how I did this original one. When I put it into this, I just went ahead and added a little bit of color along the edge. Now, what I did on this blue one was I put another aura. So I put another aura along the whole outside. And then I just put Flux, because Flux was another one of the patterns that was in the list for January. Now, this pattern is called Ripped Screen, and it is by Alice Hendon, CZT, and it's really very easy to do. You just are going to have some random lines going along like a screen, and then you're just going to leave some areas open as you go across. However you want this hole in your screen to look. You could have one that's more square looking. Okay, and then you're just going to turn your tile. And I'm not trying to keep these even. This is an old ripped screen that's seen a lot of use. It's a really cool filler to me. And it's been a while since I've used it. And I think I saw that someone had used it recently, and that's what reminded me. Okay, there you go. That's how you do ripped screen. So if you're interested in doing this Zendala, I did it just like what we just did on this one, except that I added another aura, flux, and ripped screen on the outside of this. And I think I'm going to go ahead and add, let's do what Maria likes to do. And I'm going to come out a little bit from this. And I'm going to add just an aura with the pastel pencil. Okay. And now I'm just going to soften that. And this wasn't something that I planned. I just thought, let's see what we can do to finish this one. I had put another pattern, a border that was in a grid around my first one, and I didn't do it right. And I didn't want to just trash the whole tile, and I didn't want to use it for transcending. So I just cut it off. Mostly because I wanted to show it. I'm going to go on the inside of this. and add the white. In one of the project packs, I think it was the one where they introduced the gray tiles. They did something similar to this on one of the tiles where they combined blue with the white, and it was really pretty. And you could make that go out as far as you wanted it to. I lost some of the brown color when I added the white, so I'm just going to put a little bit more here on the outside. One nice thing about the pastel pencils is you can erase some of it if you need to. Okay, I'm just going to soften that again. I'm not trying to make it a perfect outline, but I do want to add just a little bit more out here. Even smear it a little. I just want to soften it. Play with it. Just have fun. Right. I hope you liked that. Hope you enjoyed it. I will probably go in and try to fill these spots in a little bit better, just because my pen isn't doing well. And maybe I need to find some more of these browns, but in maybe an 05 or something. I'll have to look. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I would love to see your tiles if you try this. I'm going to put my chop here. And there we go. Thanks for joining me again. We're coming up on a weekend soon. Hope you have a great weekend. I hope that you're well and happy and enjoy your Zentangle. Thanks. I'll see you next time. Bye.